Good evening. The legislative session for 2013-07 of the County Council of Cecil County is hereby called to order at 7 p.m. April 2nd of 2013. All members of the council are present. Reading of the call. Would everyone please stand with me to pledge allegiance to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the county executive, Terry Moore, the human resources staff, and any other members of the walking program come forward for the presentation of the proclamation?
Could the council do
I'm going to wrap that down. Get your glasses.
I got my glasses, but you're still older than I am. No, we won't. Tomorrow is National Walking Day, and this is special to us in Cecil County because we have a group of citizens that have been walking every afternoon after work. They have been walking through the building, and once it's nicer, I imagine that they'll go outside. But it's part of the American Heart Association's fitness program. And we all know that healthy people, not only do they live longer, but they don't use medical services. They're generally happier, they're make better employees, and it's a win-win all the way around. So we're very excited that our employees have chosen to be part of this. And Donna, how many are there?
There's about 12. It's not a big group, but they're persistent.
They're very persistent, because I know they're here when I leave the building. So, but in honor of the National Walking Day, we have a resolution that we wanted to present, and it is as this is where the glasses go on. Whereas the American Heart Association is a global organization dedicated to building healthier lives free of cardiovascular diseases and stroke. And whereas statistics show that 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women are at risk for heart disease, and research shows that poor lifestyle is a major contributor. And whereas the American Heart Association's My Heart, My Life Healthy Living initiative is working to help individuals and families understand how to get active and eat healthy, all part of the American Heart Association's 2020 goal. And whereas Cecil County government initiated a walking program this past January, the 11 walkers who have been walking since the start of the program have already logged a total of 294 miles during the first 6 weeks, which is the equivalent of walking from Elka, Maryland, all the way to the George Washington National Forest in Millville, Virginia. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, Terry Moore, Robert Hodge, Alan McCarthy, Joyce Bowlesby, Michael Dunn, and Diana Brummel do hereby acknowledge Wednesday, April 3rd, 2013 as National Walking Day. We join the members of the American Heart Association and encourage all their citizens to challenge themselves and our nation to get heart healthy and fit. And tomorrow at noon, we've invited the employees to join me, and I'm actually going to put on tennis shoes and go out and walk with them at noon, and I'd like to invite all of you to join us as well. So here you go, and congratulations. And Donna, thank you very much for initiating this program.
I'm one of those 1 in 2 men that have an unhealthy lifestyle that needs to walk more. I hope you all will think about your health and get more active. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the approval of our meetings for March 19th of 2013. Council members, are there any additions or corrections to those minutes that have been provided to you? If I hear no corrections, I'd like to entertain a motion for approval of the minutes as presented.
I move the minutes be approved as presented.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right. The meeting minutes are approved as submitted. The council now open the floor to the public for comments. We've provided a sign-up sheet at the podium. We'd like you to sign in, please. And you have 5 minutes to express your point of view. Please address your comments to the council. Please be respectful and civil. And state your name and where you live before you begin your presentation, please. So, Mr. Massey, would you read the first name on the list, please?
Joe Carabetta.
Guess we got new mics. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak in public. A couple things of concern I've been reading while I've been away and sick. Mostly to do with budget items. I see that the school board was going for 3% increase in their budget. I think this needs to be looked at strongly and held back. They are producing less product because as a paper that I think the WIG puts out, the book of numbers, the number of students has gone down. And I know the argument is, well, there's a little bit in each school. Well, I'm sorry, it's still less product for the taxpayer at the end of the day. So that needs to be trimmed back. And I know there was talk, I think it's inherently unfair when the school board, which does not have taxing authority, negotiates contracts and incurs costs with the board that I'm in front of right now and the county. And they provide raises for employees when a lot of the rest of the country has been either laid off, furloughed, or had their wages reduced. And I think they should face the same set of circumstances. Also, in the budget proposal, I understand there was significant increases in sewer rates proposed by our county executive. I would like to have backup data provided, find out why these rates are going up, what is the cause of these rate increases, and most importantly, are these rate increases going to pay for future expansion, or are we just paying for the current users' requirements that they need to pay? Because we've already paid our capital improvement money. When we hooked up, we paid capital, and we're paying capital. The future users need to pay this, not the current users. And there was an incident in this county a number of years ago in a previous board when Marie Cleek was in, and they raised the landfill rates, and they said, oh, it's for future expansion, and that ended up lowering those rates back down because it was not, you could not charge current users for future expansion of current users, but the future people have to absorb those costs and the people that are benefiting from that. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Hal Reason.
Hal Reason, 632 Conowingo Road, Conowingo. Just to bring this up, and maybe you can address it at your point when you have your time, the status of the bill that the state has to expand maintenance of effort on other organizations within the counties that I believe needs to be looked at. I haven't been able to find any information on the status. There was a meeting today, where there was a discussion today about video, and I'm not worried about you taking away my job, by the way. One of the things that was discussed was having it streamed so that people could see it. I went back and looked at my videos. I only found less than 10, I'm going to say, because I forgot my notes in the rush to get here, that were in the order of 60 or 70 views. Most were less than 15, and I've been doing this for well over a year. So I don't see the people being particularly interested, as it is, with the videos. There were one that had 82 hits. One was 70-some. There was a couple 60s and 50s, but other than that, it was 1, 2, 3, or so. I did some research on my own time, and I found out that if you have a computer, for $170, you can buy an expansion. Now, I don't know what your system is, so I couldn't research that. That's 4 tera, an expansion with 4 tera bits. A meeting of 1 hour and 15 minutes is about 2.1 gig. So you're talking about, if you record it and if you store it, you're talking about 1,600 meetings that you could store for $170 if your system is compatible to something like this, rather than the $650 a month it would cost to stream it, and you would only get, from the report this morning, 25 of those meetings being televised. Today, we had, I believe it was 5 meetings that people might be interested in, including the budget meeting. So I don't think that that's a viable way to go, to stream it, at least with this particular offer. So I would suggest that it be filmed, that it be placed on the server and be accessible to the people, and that would be a nominal fee, and people then could watch it when they felt like watching it, rather than having to watch it when you guys are meeting. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Harold Buchanan.
Harold Buchanan, Health Net. Good evening. I'd like to revisit last council's public comment meeting, if I may, and more specifically a statement made by Councilperson Brumell that caused me to momentarily choke on my chewing gum. This statement by the councilperson touted her transparency. Certainly, councilperson, you jest. May I remind you of a few issues, at which point I want you to ask yourself, was I transparent and forthright with my county citizenry as opposed to my special interests? Please don't answer aloud, as you obviously can't grasp the concept of yes period or no period. Buddies for life. Here.
Keep it civil.
Buddies for life, passed under the veil of an emergency session. This was pure corruption of the bidding process. Remember, transparent, yes or no. How you voted should determine your answer. The attempted appointment of Smart Growth Plan Maryland Agenda 21 professor and preacher Owen Thorne. Focus. How about seeking legal counsel as a commissioner without conferring with all the other commissioners, then billing we the people for those services? Go ahead. Justify your gavels. Don't threaten.
Mr. Mechanic, just get on.
Well, she's got the attention of a gnat. Striking a deal with Northeast Mayor McKnight on the Rolling Mill Bridge, then funding it as a budget amendment at the very end of a commissioner meeting. Wow. When you're a member of a central committee, it has been said by other members of said committee, and some of them are present here tonight, you would call for closed session to invoke the agenda before facing the party members and the record. Transparent. How about this bidding faux pas? The sabotage of a public notice advertising bid against a local media source. Is it the purpose of a bid to get the best price as opposed to exacting revenge? Using your influence on this council to attack and attempt to discredit a local media outlet for exposing your expenditure abuse. Not only is this unforthright, I believe it was an ethics violation and your dismissal should be considered. I won't even go into the personal attack you and Councilman Dunn levied against me, but my point is you are not transparent because you say so. Your perception is not our reality. Apparently you look at your record through rose-colored glasses or a circus mirror. Speaking of mirrors, may I suggest the next time you address the mirror on the wall?
That's enough. That's enough. Keep it to the facts, in your opinion. But don't be derogatory in your comments, please.
May I be the face of your addressing these questions? Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Chris Gregory.
Good evening, Chris Gregory, Woodcrest Shores, Elton, Maryland. I have some concerns regarding the possible addition of the internal county auditor. The description of the duty seems to be rather open-ended.
Mr. Gregory, would you speak towards the mic?
Sorry.
Move the mic.
Anyway, is this better?
Yes.
All right. The description of the duty seems to be rather open-ended, and it's hard to measure, in my mind, what the true benefit of this position really is. In business and in government, the position of an internal auditor is very strictly defined, and the position is very difficult because internal auditors are not independent of the companies or organizations that employ them. Independence and objectivity is a cornerstone of the IIA, or Institute of Internal Auditors of Professional Standards. Professional internal auditors are mandated by IIA standards to be independent of the business activities that they audit. That's true. This independence and objectivity are achieved through organization placement and reporting lines of the internal audit department. Internal auditors are required to report functionally to the board of directors directly, or a subcommittee of the board of directors, typically the audit committee. There are many layers to this. In the true sense of the definition, what is this position going to be? If the position of an auditor is to provide oversight on all the inner working of different departments, then I think this is a foolish endeavor. In the business world, you do not create an internal auditor position to make up for lack of trust or accountability. Internal audits typically are not recognized by banks or other creditors as a reliable audit. You will always be required an independent audit before issuing any sort of credit line or loans. It is a proven fact that external and independent audits are more reliable and analytical than internal ones. Internal audits tend to wander in the gray area on most matters, while external auditors show things in black and white. As a citizen, I politely ask, what's the point? Is there truly a need, or is this position being created to watch over people with an iron fist? What is the true benefit of this position? Are my tax dollars being spent in a forthright manner by creating this position? I also understand that this position may involve research into the legislation that is going on at the state level and how it will impact our county. This scope of work does not fall under the true definition of an internal auditor. I can see the need for a research analyst for this scope of work, but it can only be on an as-needed basis. As a county, we already have many issues that have not moved forward on. Business growth, infrastructure improvement, and the list goes on and on. Is there really a need to make the county government bigger with more positions just because you may or may not like the analysis performed by our current external auditors? More importantly, why are you contemplating spending my tax dollars on the expansion of another unimportant government position while the issues that matter most to the citizens remain unchanged and unattended to? Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Diane Carabetta.
Diane Carabetta, 1611 Carpenters Point Road, Perryville, Maryland. I just would request that as you go through the introduction and consideration of the resolutions, if you could let us know on the ones that are withholding on the line item space so that we can receive the grant. Are there matching funds required on behalf of the county? Which ones are actually an increase to the taxpayers as far as their cost goes? The foreclosure prevention, I think it was like $27,000 grant, and I'm just wondering how that would work, because by the time most people are in foreclosure, they owe $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 just one house. So I'm not sure what the intention of that grant is, and it didn't go into details, and there was no link to click to it to get more details. So kind of blind on that. But just if you could explain a little bit more what each of them is. I mean, obviously the Public Safety Pension Board appointment, that's pretty clear. But some of the others are a little bit murky. Thank you.
Next speaker.
There are no more listed.
Okay, that ends the public comment portion of our meeting. I thank you for making comments. We'll now move on to comments from the council members. And I'll start with Councilman Dunn.
Just thank you for coming this evening on a chilly April evening.
Councilman McCarthy.
No comments.
Councilwoman Bowlesby.
I have no comments.
Councilwoman Bromell.
Good evening, everybody. Just wanted to put out a friendly reminder that the next drug awareness workshop will be on community policing. It's scheduled for April 11th at 6:30 p.m. at Cecil College in the Technology Building, room 208. Sheriff Bain of Harford County will review community policing programs that have worked effectively in Harford County, and Sheriff Janney will review programs that are currently in Cecil County. Hal Haida, the high-intensity drug trafficking area, will assist the county in fighting drug trafficking and discuss new programs he would like to promote. There was a number of bills that came out of Annapolis. As most of you know, now they approved the gas tax, and the tax will increase in states. The tax will increase over 4 years with a 4-cent increase coming in July. The tax will be used for new roads and to fund mass transit projects. MACO is encouraging everyone to contact your legislator to oppose HB 1098, the procurement prevailing wage of applicability. The current prevailing wage applies if at least 50% of the current project costs are state supported, but HB 1098 would require prevailing wage to be paid for a local project receiving any amount of state funds. This would significantly affect the cost of projects and therefore limit the amount of projects which could then be completed. And we voted this morning that we would send in a letter of support opposing HB 1098. The zero waste bill, SB 799. I just wanted to commend our own chief of solid waste, Pete Venick. He testified very effectively with a panel from MACO, and it is now put out to study. So I think we effectively addressed that bill. That could have cost a lot of counties additional resources. The bag and bottle tax both failed in the House, and wanted to give, I guess I was going to respond to some of Mr. Mechanic's issues he raised. The expenditure list that he had alluded to, that expenditure list, Mr. Hodge apologized that it was never supposed to get out into the public because it wasn't a request, it was I was asking what was I qualified to claim. And there has been an article in The Guardian that was not accurate, as usual. And that is an issue.
Point of order. As usual? Come on.
Mr. Mechanic.
You gavel me, you gotta gavel her.
Mr. Mechanic, this is the councilman's time to have their opinion. The audience needs to listen, I'm sorry.
So the expenditure list is an issue for me because since we went to charter government, our pay has decreased substantially, and we previously had a stipend of $2,000, which was for expenses, and we could also claim miles on that. Now we don't have a stipend. We don't. We can claim miles. We're reviewing the policy on what we're going to adopt, and I'm pretty sure it's going to mirror the tax, IRS tax code, which I support. So that is it's an item up that's been being discussed amongst the council, but it was totally misrepresented, in my opinion, in the Guardian. I wanted to also bring up the issue with Dr. Nias. This was enlightening to me because of how slow the Board of Physicians are in updating their website. And there was an affiliation with Union Hospital that was on that website, but it was removed right away. So it shows they can be responsive. It took 4 emails down to DHMH before they included his suspension in Delaware. We need to have responsive and up to the minute correct information on that website for us to, it's one of the many tools we need to address the pill mills, the problem that we have here in Cecil County. I've spoken long enough, so with that, thank you for listening.
I want to welcome everyone. Thank you for attending our meetings. We will have some discussion from time to time. We don't all agree all the time, and that's good, healthy way of doing business. I do want to say that this entire process that we have with resolutions and bills is an ongoing process that we will be changing. The resolutions, I think the content and how we proceed with the passage of bills and resolutions is ongoing. I've been working with the county executive and the county manager to make improvements, and I wanted to be transparent, not only to the council members themselves, but to the public. So we're trying to do the best job that we can, and the formation of charter government gives us a clean blank slate, but it will take some time for us to get the hang of the process to get it right so that everyone understands what we're doing and make some clarity out of the whole process. And again, I think we've modified the resolutions and bills frequently, and we're not done yet until we make everyone happy. So bear with us, and we'll get it right. Okay. I'd like to call Stephanie Garrity, the health officer, forward to give the council a report on things that are happening at the health department.
Mr. President, council members, thanks for the opportunity to come before you again with some updates on what's happening in the health department. I have several brief items to update you on. First of all, this is a reminder, I think, from our last get-together that the health department will be conducting rabies vaccination clinics again, coming up in May. And we have flyers on our website, additional information on Facebook, and we have some flyers here for the community to take home with them. I can't stress enough the importance of vaccinating your pets against rabies. Rabies is here in Cecil County in both domestic animals as well as wild animals, and I'm looking at our veterinarian here, and he can certainly vouch for what I'm saying, how important it is to have your pets vaccinated. I also want to update you on something that we discussed a little while ago. As you know, at the beginning of every calendar year, the health department tries to begin setting up wet season testing for people who are putting in new septic systems or are doing septic system repairs. But because of the low water table levels, because of the lack of rainfall last autumn, we weren't able to start testing in January like we usually do. But I am happy to say that as of about 2 weeks ago, we just started to do testing again because the water table levels are high enough to do so. And we have accommodated everyone that's been on our waiting list so far for this kind of testing, and we will continue to test anybody who comes with an application until the water levels drop again, probably within the next few weeks when the trees start to leaf out. Also wanted to give you an update on what's going on with our substance abuse consultant. Health Resources in Action is the name of our consultant, and they have completed interviewing key stakeholders, community leaders, government officials, and service providers. They came to Cecil County at the end of February to conduct some focus groups targeting youth, parents of school-aged children, parents or family members of current or former users, frontline organizational staff who work directly with people who are substance abusers, for example, treatment providers, current or recovering addicts, and law enforcement personnel. They are continuing to collect data and analyzing that data, and we will be requesting some additional data from our Cecil County provider community this week. We expect to see a draft report from them in the middle of May, with a final report in June. And the consultants have offered to help present the final report information to the county, so that would be a big help to me. So we hope to see the report in the middle of June. Just a brief update on Pierce Creek. I think as many of you know, there was a community meeting on March the 16th with many organizations present and many community members from the Westview Shores and Bayview Estates communities present to talk about issues regarding the quality of their water and the adequacy of their treatment systems. I just wanted to let you all know that testing of those wells has started already as a result of that community meeting. Letters from the health department, which will be certified, registered, return receipt, will be going out to all property owners in those two communities within the next week, encouraging them to call us at the health department to have their well tested. Also yesterday, in a brief ceremony at the health department to kick off Public Health Week, County Executive Moore and County Council President Hodge presented the Outstanding Community Service Awards in Public Health to 5 very deserving public health advocates here in Cecil County. Barbara Bessex, Juanita Clark, Nancy Crawford, Beth Money, and Dr. Brian DeMuth. This award is presented every year to recognize healthcare professionals and community members for their contributions and long-term commitment to public health in Cecil County. I would like everybody to hold the date, June the 24th, right here in the Elk Room, 3 to 5 p.m. and 6 to 8 p.m. We are having some experts from the state of Maryland come to Cecil County to talk about the Affordable Care Act and how it's going to impact citizens, uninsured citizens in the state of Maryland. And I think this is very timely because, as you all know, the state of Maryland is moving forward furiously to begin to bring live on the website the Health Benefit Exchange. And we want people to be ready to apply for health insurance. So I think this meeting in June will be very timely and hopefully helpful to the public. Much more information will be coming out about this in the near future. And the last item I have, of course, is flu. And as of last week, flu activity in Maryland and Cecil County continues to decrease, and with only one statewide flu outbreak reported, so I think we're definitely on a downward trend. Type B flu has been the dominant flu strain, and it will probably remain so for the rest of the current flu season, which ends June the 1st. And that's pretty much all that I have, if anybody has any questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do any of the council members have a question of the health officer?
Yeah, I was wondering, how many cases of rabies has there been? Do you know the amount?
No, I don't have that. You mean in animals?
Yeah.
No, I don't know that, but I can certainly get that for you. I just don't have it off the top of my head.
Is it higher than usual, I guess?
No, I would say about the same as past years, but we are seeing an increase in the number of feral cats who have rabies as well. These are the wild cats out there in the community that aren't really domesticated. And again, very difficult to vaccinate that particular animal. So we encourage people not to approach an animal that they don't know, so that we don't have to follow up with post-exposure shots for somebody. But I get that information for you.
And one last question.
Sure.
Pierce Creek, it's good to hear that the citizens have started to respond.
Yes.
So the testing, people have come forward even before they received the certified?
Yes.
Okay.
Some have already, because of the community meeting that was held, I think, that Saturday, the 16th of March. And we're starting to go out and test even now, even before the letters have gone out. Right.
Just a comment.
Sure.
You had said how important it is for rabies vaccinations. Not only is it important for the pet, but it's important for the pet owner and their family.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also the law. The law requires all pets.
Over the age of 4 months.
to be vaccinated, and,
Dogs, cats, and ferrets.
there's no doubt that you do it very inexpensively. There's no
Yes.
excuse for somebody that can't come up with $7, and if they can't come up with $7, I'm sure that you'll find a way to support that effort. I won't say that you'll guarantee it for free, but the health department usually can find a way.
We do our best, but
But it is an important matter that we cannot ignore, because we certainly don't want people dying of rabies. It's very easily controllable.
yes, and as what attested to in the news as of late, yes. Okay.
And I do remember previous reports that rabies is one of the bigger health problems in Cecil County in terms of numbers, when you look at all the issues that you manage.
Well, it's something that we try and stay on top of, because we don't want it to move from the wild animal community to humans, obviously. So that barrier is very important.
Are there any other questions from the council? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
The next item on our agenda is the introduction of resolutions. We have quite a few of them tonight. The first one being resolution number 19-2013, regarding appointment of the Public Safety Pension Board of Trustees. Would the council manager please read the resolution into the record?
Resolution number 19-2013, a resolution to confirm the appointment from the county executive to the Public Safety Pension Plan Board of Trustees, introduced by the council president on behalf of the county executive, introduced and posted April 2nd, 2013, scheduled for consideration on April 16th, 2013.
Does the county executive staff have anything to offer on this resolution?
Mr. President, council members, none other than the county executive is presenting Mr. Heigl for the council's confirmation. Also, he was interviewed by a subcommittee of the Pension Plan Board of Trustees and is qualified for the position, and currently a financial advisor with Five Rivers Financial Advisors LLC, and we find him to be highly qualified for this position.
Thank you. Do any of the council members have any questions regarding the resolution that's before you now? Okay, this resolution will be considered on April 16th, or scheduled for consideration on April 16th of 2013, or the next legislative meeting. The next resolution is 20-2013, resolution to amend the Cecil County zoning ordinance. Would the council manager please introduce this resolution into the record, please?
Resolution number 20-2013, a resolution to amend the Cecil County zoning ordinance, Article 2, Section 12, definition of basic terms, and Article 5, Part 3, Section 79 of the home occupations, introduced by the county president at the request of the county executive, introduced and order posted April 2nd, 2013, public hearing scheduled on May 7th, 2013 at 7 p.m.
Is there anyone that...
Mr. President, council members, Mr. Black with the representative Office of Planning and Zoning is here to provide a briefing on this amendment.
Mr. President, members of the council, this proposed amendment will change section 79 of the zoning ordinance, in that currently home occupations are limited to the same building in which the residence is located. The proposed amendment proposes to allow the home occupation to be conducted on the same property as a residence rather than within the same building. And the amendment to section 12 would mirror that which is proposed for section 79 and keep the language consistent. The planning office staff recommends approval of this, and on March 18th, the planning commission recommended approval as well. And I'm here to answer any questions that council may have.
Do any of the council members have any questions regarding resolution number 20-2013?
I don't have any questions, but I just remember this issue coming up, and it was, I think, unanimous of the Board of County Commissioners at the time that this option should be still there's oversight if they're doing things that are, I guess, interfering with the neighbor's enjoyment of their property. There's still remedies to intervene and take away, I guess, the special exception.
The special exception would still have to be approved in the ordinary manner. They would just be additional folks who are doing something on the property rather than in the residence would be eligible to apply. So there would still be the oversight and that the Board of Appeals could still disapprove the proposal if there's objections or if they deem it inappropriate.
That's right, before, it wasn't even allowed to be considered, they automatically voted it down if it was not attached.
That's correct, yes, ma'am. The planning office staff would say, you do not meet the criteria to even apply for a special exception.
Any other questions from any of the other council members? Okay, just to repeat, there will be a public hearing on this resolution. That public hearing is scheduled for May 7th of 2013 at 7 p.m. So anyone that would like to speak for or against this resolution should speak up at the public hearing. All right, thank you, Mr. Black.
Thank you, sir.
The next resolution is 21-2013, a resolution approving an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance. Mr. Massey, would you please read this resolution into the record, please?
Resolution number 21-2013, a resolution approving an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for Cecil County, Maryland for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, to provide the general fund with additional expenditure appropriation authority to receive an increase in state grant funds for the FY 2013 Neighborhood Youth Panel Grant, introduced by the Council President on behalf of the County Executive, introduced in order posted April 2nd, 2013, scheduled for consideration on April 16th, 2013.
Mr. Wine, or Mr. Winston Robinson, you have comments?
Yeah, since this is the first time that we've introduced ordinances of this nature since January 1, I'll go through, there's roughly 5 paragraphs that relate, and it's the same sequence in each one of these, so it's worthwhile doing it at once because the pattern repeats. In the first paragraph on page 2, it basically says what's being done, and essentially it's a recommendation that a supplemental appropriation to a budget in this instance and all the instances of 2013. The next paragraph says where the funding is coming from. And in the first of this ordinance, it says it's revising the general fund revenue estimate, which is part of what the charter asked for, to increase the amount of the Neighborhood Youth Panel Grant funds from the Governor's Office of Crime and Prevention by $1,500 pursuant to a grant to an award notification. What this says is we've actually received information from the grantor. It tells us who the grantor is, and it tells us what the amount of the grant is. It's the amount that changes from the original budget estimate. On the next paragraph, we see such appropriation is necessary. The major characteristic of fiscal funding here is the fact that council has the ability to appropriate expenditure funds. What we're saying here is such appropriation is necessary to provide $1,500 of additional grant funding for the Neighborhood Youth Panel program expenditures. Having done 3 whereas paragraphs, the next one says, now therefore be it resolved. And basically what this means is that council therefore agrees and therefore enacts that the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for fiscal year 2013 is hereby amended. And what this means is that the original ordinance and all amendments since then are held intact. And it amends the current expense budget, not the capital or anything in that vein, but the current expense budget to appropriate additional expenditures in the general fund to increase the youth panel department by the amount of $1,500. And the last paragraph basically affirms that by saying it is further resolved that it is hereby done. And the date of its passage is the effective date.
So bottom line, we are receiving an additional grant of $1,500 over the amount that was expected, and we have to account for that.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any questions from the council members regarding this resolution? Okay, and this resolution will be scheduled for consideration on April 16th of 2013. The next resolution is number 22-2013, an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance. Would the council manager please read this resolution into the record?
Resolution number 22-2013, a resolution approving an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for Cecil County, Maryland for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, to provide the Senior Services and Community Transit Fund with additional expenditure appropriation authority to receive state grant funds for the FY 2013 Senior Center Operating Grant. Introduced by the Council President on behalf of the County Executive, introduced in order posted April 2nd, 2013, scheduled for consideration on April 16th, 2013.
Once again, this is grant funding and is providing for the expenditure of the grant.
In the amount of $2,500.
Yes.
Any questions from the council members? Okay, this will be scheduled for consideration on April 16th of 2013. Resolution number 23-2013, an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance. Would the council manager please introduce this by reading it into the record?
Resolution number 23-2013, a resolution approving an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for Cecil County, Maryland for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, to provide the general fund with additional expenditure appropriation authority to receive federal grant funds for the FY 2013 State Homeland Security Program. Introduced by the Council President on behalf of the County Executive, introduced in order posted on April 2nd, 2013, and scheduled for consideration on April 16th, 2013.
Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, this one, once again, is a grant that relates to the State Homeland Security Program. It's new grant funds, and we're asking for the appropriations that funds can be spent.
In the amount of $78,896.
Yes, sir.
Any questions from the council members? Okay.
The appropriation, is that coming from the general fund?
The appropriation, the grant fund, the county executive is declaring that there's an estimate of a revenue increase, and therefore the expenditure of those funds is part of what the ordinance is. We declare that there's revenues to be used, and then we declare that, or then we ask that the appropriation, the net result is there's no change in the fund balance of that fund.
Again, this is a grant, and we're accommodating for the grant.
Right.
Okay, again, this will be considered, scheduled for consideration on April 16th. The next resolution is number 24-2013, another amendment for the annual budget and appropriation ordinance. Would the council manager please introduce this by reading it into the record?
Resolution number 24-2013, a resolution approving an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for Cecil County, Maryland for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, to provide the general fund with additional expenditure appropriation authority to receive federal grant funds for the FY 2013 Bren Justice Assistant Grant. Introduced by the Council President on behalf of the County Executive, introduced and order posted on April 2nd, 2013, and scheduled for consideration on April 16, 2013.
Once again, the county executive is revising the revenue estimate by an increase of $36,915 with regard to the grant, and we're asking the council to approve the expenditures related to that.
Is there any questions by the council members? Thank you. Resolution number 20-2013, another amendment to the annual budget appropriation ordinance.
Resolution number 25-2013, a resolution approving an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for Cecil County, Maryland for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, to provide the Senior Services and Community Transit Fund with additional expenditure appropriation authority to receive an increase in the state grant funds for the FY 2013 Subsidized Group Assistance Housing Grant. Introduced by the Council President on behalf of the County Executive, introduced and order posted on April 2nd, 2013, and scheduled for consideration on April 16th, 2013.
In this instance, the county executive is revising the Senior Services and Community Transit Fund revenue estimate up by $13,638 and is requesting council approval for these grant expenditures. I should mention that one of the things that happens in this county is that we do not extend a grant until it is approved.
Are there any questions by council members regarding this resolution? This resolution will also be considered on April 16th. The next resolution is 26-2013, another amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance.
Resolution number 26-2013, a resolution approving an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for Cecil County, Maryland for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, to provide the general fund with additional expenditure appropriation authority to receive Maryland Department of Family Administration grant funds for the FY 2013 Protective Order Advocacy and Representation Project. Introduced by the Council President on behalf of the County Executive, introduced and order posted on April 2nd, 2013, and scheduled for consideration on April 16th, 2013.
In this instance, the county executive is revising the general fund revenue estimate up by $25,127 and is requesting council expenditure of the authority.
Are there any questions from the council members? This resolution will also be considered on April 16th. The next resolution is 27-2013, another amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance.
Resolution number 27-2013, a resolution approving an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for Cecil County, Maryland for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, to provide the general fund with additional expenditure appropriation authority to receive state grant funds for the FY 2013 Liquor Board Project Crossroads Grant. Introduced by the Council President on behalf of the County Executive, introduced and order posted on April 2nd, 2013, and scheduled for consideration on April 16th, 2013.
In this instance, the general fund revenue estimate is being increased by $13,813, and we're asking council for the appropriation of the fund.
Any questions by the council? Hearing none, this resolution will be also considered on April 16th. Resolution number 28-2013, another amendment to the annual budget appropriation ordinance.
Resolution number 28-2013, a resolution approving an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for Cecil County, Maryland, for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, to provide the wastewater fund with additional expenditure appropriation authority to increase the amount expended on equipment rental and sludge disposal, introduced by the council president on behalf of the county executive, introduced and order posted on April 2nd, 2013, and scheduled for consideration on April 16th, 2013.
This is the first amendment that does not involve grant funds. If you look at the second paragraph, it says the county executive is revising the 2013 wastewater fund revenue estimate to increase the amount of fund balance available by $167,000. The amount of fund balance available declared is equal to the amount of the funds that we require to fund expenses that have been incurred. The next paragraph goes on to explain the reasons why. And in this instance, it is to provide the wastewater fund with $102,000 for additional equipment rental costs related to an emergency rental, and $65,000 for anticipated additional sludge disposal costs. And then we go on to explain that it is resolved, and this is the action taken by council. Before Dave takes over, what I do want to explain also is that in FY13, it's the first time that the wastewater fund started to pay sludge disposal costs to the landfill fund, and the original amounts were all based upon estimates.
Yes. The funds basically is to cover the emergency replacement of our emergency generator at Seneca Point. It went down and we had to rent a generator from September until about a month ago, which cost, when we first started renting, cost $21,000 a month. And then we found a state contract on which we provided the rental for $11,000 a month. We bought a new generator through the state bid, and it was put on March 1st, and started up on March 1st. Again, we have been spending a lot more money in sludge disposal fees because we never did pay for it before. We're actually, the money staying in the county, it's just transferring it from the wastewater account into the solid waste account to, because they have costs to take care of the sludge, so that's why that's what
Thank you. Are there any questions by the council members?
What did the new generator cost? $260,000.
And it costs $102,000 to rent one for 7 months or 6 months, 7 months, I guess.
Yeah. Yes.
That's a good.
We had this, it was required, the state requires emergency backup power in wastewater plants.
How big a generator was it, sir?
Pardon?
How large a generator was it?
1,000 kW.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Brunel?
The total cost, $65,000, was that the total cost for the rental then? Or also? Oh, I'm sorry, the $102,000 was the total rental cost?
I would guess that we had to fund from September until March. Because it started out at $21,000. I think it was 3 months, $21,000. Then when we found the state contract with $11,000, so at that point on, it went to $11,000.
Okay, and Al, I'm not correct in my memory that we had allocated monies before for the rental, that wasn't done?
Yes. Mr. Flanagan, as I recall, Mr. Flanagan approached the prior board of commissioners with an emergency request to proceed with the rental.
But we didn't allocate.
We have
the
authorized the
resources.
rental, I understand that, this is the bill, okay.
Just two things. Number one, in the future, and I know that I asked this question earlier this morning, but I'd like, when you say fund balance, I'd like you to specify the enterprise fund balance or the general fund balance, so that you know, and there could be a day in the future where the general fund balance could be used to support wastewater under emergency conditions.
Paragraph 2 actually says wastewater fund. And that is an enterprise fund. Enterprise fund is a type of fund. The wastewater fund is the specific fund name.
No, you're pulling it from a fund balance. It
Oh,
doesn't
wastewater
specify,
fund.
it doesn't say that.
It says we are revising the wastewater fund revenue estimate to increase the amount of fund balance available. So the revenue estimate of the wastewater fund, the only fund balance it has to use is the wastewater.
That's not true. In an emergency situation, if you use up your enterprise fund balance, you could remove money from our general fund balance.
Actually, in that instance, it's the general fund that transfers my money to the wastewater fund, and the wastewater fund balance would not be used.
For the public's information and for mine, I prefer that you specify, just to make it perfectly clear so we don't have to think about it.
We can change the words from the amount of fund balance.
And I'm not asking for this one to be amended, but all the future ones. I'd like to be specific on which fund balance we're drawing down. The other comment is that even though you're requesting $65,000 for this additional sludge disposal cost, that $65,000, correct me if I'm wrong, is actually going into the revenue for the landfill.
This is gonna be billed by the landfill to the wastewater fund, but it does not revise the landfill's.
Not the budget, but it will go into their revenue stream.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily money that's going out of the county or into another vendor's account.
Right.
It's staying within the county. This is just an accounting of the resource.
Right, the wastewater fund and the landfill fund bill for the services used. In this instance, the landfill fund is performing the service for the wastewater fund by disposing of the sludge.
Does that mean that you're gonna drop the tipping fee increase recommendation? No? No. Oh, sorry. Okay, are there any other questions from any council members, Mr. McCarthy?
One more question. I understand that you're mandated to have backup power at the water treatment facility. Did you ever even start the generator other than to see it work?
That's what caused the problem. The generator's set up to run once a week at around 5, 6 o'clock at night. It comes on and exercises itself, then it shuts itself down. What happened, there was a failure in the shut-off mechanism. It's supposed to be a safety switch that helps shut that motor down. When the generator starts up and it gets hotter, it runs faster and faster and faster. If it's not shut off, it will end up blowing itself up, and that's what happened. The engine never shut down, it just continued running.
That wasn't my question. My question was, the one that you basically leased for $102,000, did you ever have to use it?
One time.
For how long?
Probably was about an hour or so.
Okay, thank you.
But the emergency generator you had to use, I remember there was an incident that it was in place.
Yeah, it was in place, yes.
Okay, this resolution will also be considered, or scheduled for consideration on April 16th. Next resolution is number 29-2013. Would the council manager please introduce it by reading it into the record?
Resolution number 29-2013, a resolution approving an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for Cecil County, Maryland for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, to provide the general fund with additional expenditure appropriation authority to receive a carryover of federal grant funds for the FY 2011 Bryn Justice Assistant Grant, introduced by Council President on behalf of the County Executive, introduced in order posted on April 2nd, 2013, and scheduled for consideration on April 16th, 2013.
This amendment increases the revenue estimate for that grant by $220, and we're asking council for the expenditure of the authority.
Any questions from council members on this resolution? Hearing none, this resolution was also considered on April 16th. Resolution number 30-2013, resolution for supplemental budget appropriation ordinance. Would the council manager please introduce this by reading it into the record, please?
Resolution number 30-2013, a resolution approving an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for Cecil County, Maryland for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, to provide the general fund with additional expenditure appropriation authority to increase the amount expended on the 2013 volunteer recognition event, introduced by the council president on behalf of the county executive, introduced in order posted April 2nd, 2013, scheduled for consideration on April 16th, 2013.
In this instance, the 2013 general fund or revenue estimates change on account of two factors. One is the unspent revenues from last year's volunteer recognition event, which is being carried over into, so it can be used this year as expenditures, along with an estimate of private donations that are expected to be received in the 2013 fiscal year. The amounts are $985 and $2,000, and we are asking council for the expenditure appropriation authority of $2,095.
Are there any questions from the council members? Correct me if I'm wrong, the bottom line is that basically we could spend up to $2,985 to put on this volunteer recognition event. And this money is left, this combination of money that was left over from last year plus anticipated sponsorships from others that want to support this event. At the end of the day, no taxpayer dollars will be supporting this event.
Correct.
Okay. I also just want to bring it to the attention to the public, not only this event is not taxpayer supported, but it is a very worthwhile event where we, the county government, recognize volunteers that have contributed throughout the year to improve the quality of life here in Cecil County, and I feel that it's a very worthwhile event. But we get private companies and individuals to fund this program, but we still have to account for it in our books. So, if there's no further questions, we'll consider this resolution on April 16th. Next resolution is 31-2013. Resolution is another amendment of the budget and appropriations. Would the council manager please introduce it by reading it into the record?
Resolution number 31-2013, a resolution approving an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for Cecil County, Maryland for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, to provide the general fund with additional expenditure appropriation authority to receive state grant funds for the FY 2013 Sheriff's Office Project Crossroads Grant. Introduced by the Council President on behalf of the County Executive, introduced in order posted on April 2nd, 2013, and scheduled for consideration on April 16th, 2013.
This amendment increases the general fund or revenue estimate for a grant by $4,100, and we are asking council for the expenditure authority.
Are there any questions from the council? Hearing none, this resolution is scheduled for consideration on April 16th. Next resolution is Resolution 32-2013, another amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance. Council Manager, please introduce it by reading it into the record.
Resolution number 32-2013, a resolution approving an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for Cecil County, Maryland for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, to provide the Housing Fund with additional expenditure appropriation authority to receive state grant funds for the FY 2013 foreclosure prevention grant. Introduced by the Council President on behalf of the County Executive, introduced and order posted April 2nd, 2013, and scheduled for consideration on April 16th, 2013.
This amendment uses an increase in the housing fund revenue estimate related to grant funds of $21,572, and we're asking council for the expenditure of the authority.
Are there any questions from the council members?
Could you explain to me how these monies are supposed to be spent?
Dr. McCarthy, my understanding is the grant funds from this specific grant go towards wages for the housing foreclosure counselor in Dave Mahaney's housing office. She works with councils folks with foreclosure, that are facing foreclosure and other housing issues.
So this is to assist the people that are being foreclosed upon.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
I've spoken to David Mahaney about this program, and they have been able to intervene successfully in reducing the mortgage costs. It's very effective.
Very successful.
Is it a free program for the public?
I believe so, yes.
Are there any other questions? All right, this resolution will also be scheduled for consideration on April 16th. Next resolution is 33-2013, another amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance. Would the council manager please introduce it by reading it into the record?
Resolution number 33-2013, a resolution approving an amendment to the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for Cecil County, Maryland for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, to provide the Housing Fund with additional expenditure appropriation authority to receive a carryover of federal grant funds for the FY 2012 Comprehensive Counseling Grant. Introduced by the Council President on behalf of the County Executive, introduced and order posted on April 2nd, 2013, and scheduled for consideration on April 16th, 2013.
In this instance, I have the feeling that the word assistance is left over from a prior item because we're not assisting scams. Housing fund revenue estimate is being increased with regard to the mortgage modification and mortgage scams grant funds in the amount of $5,698. And we're asking council's appropriation authority to assist in the funds.
Mr. Robinson, you're speaking on 34, this is 33.
I'm sorry. I went ahead. In this instance, I'm sorry, the housing fund revenue estimate for comprehensive counseling grant funds are being increased by $3,444, and we're asking council for the expenditure authority of $3,444.
Are there any questions from the council?
One question, what is comprehensive counseling?
If Al doesn't know, I will have to wait until the work session where we have staff.
I'll get back with you on that.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd just like to know where the money goes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, this resolution will also be considered on April 16th.